Welcome to the Kickstarter video presentation for Epochs Civilization Wars, a proposed real-time strategy game world editor which will allow players to design, test, release, play, and monetize their own game creations all on the same platform. The following presentation is broken into sections. Please forgive the basic nature of our video. None of the team members are day-to-day video personalities. We feel strongly that it's more important to come to you quickly with this proposal and strike while the iron is hot than it would be to attempt to dazzle you with an overproduced video. We believe these ideas can stand on their own merit and usher in a renaissance in game modding and creation. And now, the presentation. Thank you for your interest in our project to create a new real-time strategy game editor and to bring our original Civilization Wars to you as its first playable game. I'd like to take a few minutes to explain to you how we arrived at the desire to bring this new gaming platform into existence. As a kid, going through college and even today, I love playing video games, especially computer games. Since multiplayer was available to them much earlier, many computer games also benefited from player-made mods, scenarios, custom maps, or other player-created features that kept these games fresh long past their sell-by date. In many ways, it was a simpler time. The tools used to create most games weren't that much different from the same home computers players used to enjoy them. As a result, if you could open a text editor and an image editor, you were already well on your way to modding the game. Many developers realized that they could keep their products viable in the marketplace longer by offering built-in modding tools to their games, leading to more units sold even years down the line. And the player communities themselves helped keep the games fresh and added to the diversity of gameplay styles available. In 1996, two of my favorite PC games were released. They were Sid Meier's Civilization II and StarCraft. Both games came with built-in modding tools that were highly accessible to the average player. In Civilization II, if you wanted to play a scenario depicting any given historical war, it was very likely that your experience was just a download away on any number of fan sites around at the time. Playing multiplayer games was even easier in StarCraft, as well as custom games. Simply join the multiplayer lounge and browse. Tower defenses, endless sieges to hold off, fan fiction building on the existing lore of the game that you could play, even completely different games one wouldn't think would fit into a real-time strategy game. All you had to do was press join and wait for the download to complete. 5 years later, in 2002, the release of Warcraft 3 put an even more capable modding tool on display. Although similar to the map editor provided with StarCraft, the scale, the number of graphical assets, and the number of scripts and triggers players could use to customize their own scenarios had increased, while retaining the simple-to-use interface that allowed so many to make their own mods of the game. It was during this period of time that I created my own custom game in the Warcraft 3 ecosystem by combining themes from multiple of my favorite past games with some of the unique game styles found almost exclusively in the custom maps arena. Civilization Wars was born. Civilization Wars was one of the most popular maps in a genre called Line Wars. Similar to MOBAs like Defense of the Ancients or Dota, two teams defend their base behind a series of towers. Waves of AI-controlled creeps or mobs would fight each other in an attempt to tear down the opposing team's base. Unlike Dota, which put the player in the role of tactically controlling a hero on the front lines of battle, attempting to tip the scales, players were instead tasked with creating buildings that added to and altered the composition of attacking creeps. Depending on the positioning and the type of buildings chosen, the battle would begin to favor one side over the other, with the goal of ultimately destroying the opposition's base. Players are periodically given income, which they use to add to their armies, build additional defenses, improve their technology, invest in their economy, build one-of-a-kind wonders with unique effects, or upgrade their existing troops into more technically advanced versions of their existing form. Coordination between teammates becomes vital, as points along the map and various lines offer bonus resources to those who control them, even if assaulting the enemy's base is still out of reach. The combination of real-time battles and turn-based elements appealed to a broad audience of players, as the intensity of the game could easily be adjusted by altering the frequency of income granted to the players, and twitch-based high actions per second maneuvering was not necessary to enjoy or be highly successful at the game. Like many appealing games, Civilization Wars was easy to play, but hard to master, because of the depth of the gameplay and the variety of meaningful choices and viable playstyles available. All of this could be experienced in a game that lasted on average 20 to 45 minutes. At the height of its popularity, the only custom map which had more active games being hosted on Battle.net than Civilization Wars was Dota. As I graduated from college with a degree in history and moved into the workforce, I handed control over Civilization Wars to other dedicated individuals that carried on the game's development and maintenance. But this project isn't just about bringing a reimagined version of Civilization Wars to life as a standalone project. It's about the process by which games like this come into existence in the first place, the game editor. Since this past golden age of game mods, two things have become to plague game editors. One is overcomplexity. Many of the tools available became more powerful and flexible, allowing players to edit even more aspects of games. The negative aspect was that on average, there was a dramatic increase on the complexity of the game editor itself. To give you a practical example, if you wanted to add a range attack to a building like a barracks in Warcraft 3, you could simply add an attack value for the barracks, which already had a field that existed for it, set a range, highlight a few art assets from existing units like an archer or a guard tower, and that's it, all on the same line entry for the barracks. Trying to do this in future editors like the one provided for StarCraft 2 was harder, a lot harder. You had to find processes scattered throughout multiple nested trees of data on several different pages to achieve the same effect you could previously do on one single page. Even after you figured out how to do it, it still took much longer to achieve the same effect as before. All these additional barriers to entry and progress meant fewer custom maps were being made, and game editor tools became primarily for those who were already skilled developers. The other and more recent issue is simply corporate greed. In an age of paid DLC, mods, custom maps, special scenarios, and the like started being viewed by some developers less as free content that prolonged the popularity of a game title and more as competition to in-house teams who would like to charge for additional content that mods used to provide for free. Developers jealously looked upon mod makers who had successfully elevated their projects into standalone games at a later date, and now famously, with the recent botched release of Warcraft 3 Reforged, the new terms of service for the game authored by Activision Blizzard claims complete ownership and all rights to all custom maps made for their platform. What better way to quash all creative incentive to make a custom map or mod than to say from the outset that if by chance you create something innovative and widely popular, you're guaranteed to see absolutely nothing from your efforts, unless some corporate suits see fit to throw you a couple of bones for your silence. Sadly, as a result, Warcraft 3 Reforged is not going to be the second coming of that highly creative environment that saw so many new game genres and game concepts that emerged. The result is a massive hole in the marketplace. There are any number of game engines out there which you can use if you happen to already be a proficient programmer, but lack a meaningful community to present a game to, leaving you to market your game entirely on your own through its early stages, if you can do all of that work by yourself. There's also any number of big titles out there that have some sort of modding available. Some are more accessible to non-programmers than others, but all of these lack a mechanism to monetize your work should you become successful. Some developers would actually bar your way with legal efforts should you attempt to take your project solo at a later date, like Activision Blizzard. What we aim to produce is a real-time strategy game framework with a built-in, easy-to-access world editor to allow for the creation of custom games which can then be played and sold on the same platform for a modest percentage of the revenue earned. All the graphics, sound effects, and other assets we assemble will be available to the designers to use in their own games on the platform. historical, fantasy, science fiction settings, the more funds that we can raise for the project, the more we will populate the editor with these graphics and resources. Real-time strategy, role-playing games, tower defenses, MOBAs, line wars, and more will be possible within such a structure. Our own map will serve as the initial launch title, to which players themselves will be able to add to. These custom maps will be able to be sold as premium content on the platform for a portion of the revenue generated. Want to take your project solo at a later date with your own graphics, platform, and IP? No problem. We're excited about seeing our game come to life. We hope you're also equally excited about the potential this project offers for your own projects and for the gaming community that can arise around it. If you would like to know more about us, the project, and how you can support it going forward, please visit our project page below. Thank you, and have a great day. Hi, hope you guys got something out of that. I'm really excited about the project, and I just really wanted to add a few more additional ideas that have popped in my head since I made the initial script for the project. But basically, like I mentioned in the project script, there is this massive hole in the marketplace. If you are a pretty good developer, you can right now go and grab some sort of engine. Go get Unity, go get Unreal Engine relatively cheaply. If you are maybe one step better in programming than I am, because I've tried those and have not had a whole lot of success starting from square one, you can make a game by yourself. But like I said, you have nowhere to bring that game. There's no natural next step. You have to then get into marketing if you're a developer. Compare that to somebody who is making a mod for an existing game. Well, they may have an easier time making the game than you did. They may be able to do it with less skill in programming than you may have, or the previous person may have had. But at the end of the day, when they get that game put together, where are they going to go with it? They're stuck on the platform of one particular game. There's all sorts of terms of service and rules and regulations particular to that game. They may claim ownership of your game, and you might have a lot more people that know your name or know your game's name, but you're hemmed in a lot more. A lot of the things that you're making might not be useful to you, and you have to redo a lot of stuff as you have to completely start from scratch at a later date. We're trying to get to this middle ground where, yes, it's a game, it's Civilization Wars, that's the Super Mario Brothers in the Nintendo Entertainment System, right? But you can make your own games. You can be basically the third-party developer, and you can hop on our platform, and then nothing is stopping you from using all of the art assets that we have managed to pull together from this program, and you can make a game, any type of game you want that you can figure out how to make from the editor. Like I said, your imagination is really the limit, but real-time strategy, RPGs, both like real live RPGs and like slow it down more like Dungeons and Dragons kind of RPGs, tower defenses, MOBAs. There's this huge swath of games that if you were there during those kind of periods of the golden age and you were on BattleNet for either StarCraft or Warcraft 3, you already know what I'm talking about. And maybe you aren't even excited about trying to make a game. You just want to get back there. You want to get back into that spot where you load up the thing and it's like, what do I feel like playing today? And there's just a wave list of endless variety. And you're like, well, maybe I don't want to play anything I've played before. Maybe I want to try something new. And maybe it's trash, right? But maybe it's awesome. That was just a wonderful time. There were so many different types of games that I played in that environment, and I would love that. I would just love to see that come back, where it's like boom, 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 and it's been on the decline a long time. And then what's even better than that? What's even better than that environment where we take the best ones, we take the most capable people in that environment, and we elevate them into real game developers that are making money, getting paid, have incentive to keep working with the project, are able to dedicate more time to their maps and custom maps and projects because they are directly getting some income from it. They're not having to, try to direct you to a website and get donations and worry if some big shadowy company is going to come down on them at any time. They know they're legit and they're under the rules, and they can continue with this as long as they need to until they're ready to do something else, until they are completely ready to say, you know what, either we're going to do a full release on this platform and maybe release the game as a 5, 10, 15, 20, maybe, I can't even imagine, maybe somebody has puts in enough work and creates a big enough campaign or something that these are full-fledged $40 to $60 games that people are popping up. Maybe not likely, but there's no reason why it's going to be limited to that, right? There's no reason you couldn't if you put that much effort into it. And I've seen some of the mods that people make out there, and getting more tools into their hands, I think, would be amazing. The other thing I wanted to point out is I kind of understand why the whole has formed this in that middle spot of the market, right? Because somebody explained this to me with healthcare and economics, and this might be over your head, but think about it. This, like, if somebody has a treatment for cancer, right? Let's say you have a treatment for colon cancer, okay? And they can keep you from dying from colon cancer. All you got to do is go in there once a year, take this injection or this pill that I've got. You're fine. No colon cancer for 1 year. Come back and see me again next year. Well, that's kind of what the gaming industry has become, right? They want you to come back every year for another pill or another game, right? They don't want you to have this platform that is constantly throwing neat new ideas at you, bringing new competitive content. People who aren't making games right now. These are creative people who are making Dungeons and Dragons campaigns right now and playing them with their friends online or in person. These are people who are writing fan fiction. These are people who are doing all sorts of creative work because that's their hobby, but they're not getting paid for it because they don't have the right tools to get into this market. So those people dispensing the pills, the 1 a year pills, have absolutely no incentive to fill the center spot in the marketplace, right? They're just looking to keep selling their pills. I come along, and what I'm trying to design is, rather than treat your boredom with 1 pill a year, I want to cure you of boredom by giving you this one thing that is going to both constantly present you with new innovative ideas and games that you can play, probably at a great value. I mean, I've got to guess, because a lot of people who do this, they're not asking for AAA salaries, when they create these games. They're going to be happy that their hobby is kicking them back some money, and that's going to incentivize them to keep on going. These aren't AAA studios. And we've seen AAA studios with humongous budgets produce some of the trashiest kind of explosions. And it's hard to say where in each organization the fault lies for those kind of catastrophic failures. But it's somewhere in there that there's this kind of rot, whether it's from the corporate side or whether it's from the designers getting lazy or, IP getting stale and nobody trying to go to the next level or the next new thing. Those are all problems, right? So if you bring in fresh blood, that's going to issue a challenge to those people. And they don't want that. They don't want these highly creative people in that kind of center block of creative talent with ideas and, some organizational ability, some ability to make things, because you can get your toes in the water and know mods and know a little logic. But you can't just sit down in front of Unity and say, well, I'm going to make a game today. Well, I'm going to give you a lot of those tools if you help me out. I'm going to give you a lot of the graphics, the sound effects, and I'm not going to hide them behind a terms of service that says I own your project. So that's what I'm going to do. Basically creating this library of stuff that we already know that is part of our public domain of fantasy, kind of historical movies, and science fiction, right? We all have these kind of basic ideas from Tolkien, from popular movies that we've seen, that everybody copies them or takes elements from them. And what better, we need this library. We need this fantasy library that we can go to and say, hey, I want some of these. I need some of this. I need some of this. And if people have access to all of those, I'm giving you the bucket full of Legos, and it's not the bucket full of Legos that only builds one thing. It's the bucket full of Legos that can build everything. But we're doing it for video games. And that's really what I want to create. And about creation in general, like, when I think of Kickstarter, I'm thinking of people trying to do something brand new. I'm thinking like Elon Musk making a stainless steel rocket ship, kind of pushing the limits to a new level. That's not actually what we're doing here. We're taking stuff that already exists. We're not pushing the limit. We're not going to try to go to AAA and beyond and push the limit of video gaming. This is stuff that we already know exists and should exist in this format. Nobody's done it because of that incentive problem. And that's what we want to change. And I guess it's because we aren't in some big development house that we can see that hole. Whereas if you're in a development house, you're just like, okay, I have my IPs. I have my development teams that are working on their separate IPs. Maybe we integrate a new IP every once in a while, but they've got tunnel vision. Each person is working on a certain little project. They're not looking at gaming as a whole and saying, what can I do in order to revolutionize this with the pieces that already exist? Like I said, the kind of stuff that we're going to be putting out there, the stuff that's already out there in every single game, but it's locked up in between all these different companies and shut off between all these different gates. And we're going to put it all together in one spot for you, so you can either play it in several different ways. I'll get my finger there. Play it, or design it. There we go. And, that's the second type of innovation. The second type of innovation is the guy who is flipping through the existing patents, knows what the industry is already doing, and sees a way to combine those things into a new creation with parts that have already been created. And we just have to, in this case, get those developers out of the way in order to take something like this together for the gaming community to have, so they have in one place a giant cache of graphics, an editor that is functional and accessible for most skill levels, and a way to go from that project stage to a money generation stage without having to start over or jump through a bunch of burning hoops to get there. And I hope that explains things to you. If not, we're going to have more updates going forward. We're going to take your questions and have like a frequently asked questions area. So just let us know if there's something that you don't understand about this project and you've still got questions about, you're thinking about supporting it, but you're not 100% sure. Just drop us a question. I'm sure there's a little section on there on the website for it, or you can email us because we're going to have emails available, or jump on our subreddit and just ask questions there. And if there's anything else that we can let you know about what our plans are for the long term, then we will address that as soon as possible. Really want to thank you guys for coming this far with me. Go ahead and check out the rest of it. I hope you can support the project. And I hope you have a great day, whatever you're doing. Peace out.